Hey guys, before we hop into this episode, me and Josh just want to let you know that this episode is a little bit longer and we want to give you guys a sensitivity warning.
Yeah, there's going to be a good bit of mention of drugs, violence, alcohol, everything like that. So if you're sensitive to any of those things, this might not be the episode for you.
But for all of our normal listeners, it does come to a great ending. We hope you guys enjoy. What's going on, Juvie listeners? Welcome back to another Juvie Saturday. Over 100 episodes at this point. We're so excited to bring you guys another one. You guys, if you're listening on any audio platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, we're top 80 in the country. Let's go top 50. Hit that download button, leave us a 5-star review, and share this video with a friend. If you're watching on YouTube, be in those first 10,000 subscribers. We're growing rapidly over there. Can't wait for today's episode. Josh, who are we talking with today?
Today we're actually talking with one of my coworkers who we've been so excited to talk with for such a long time. He is our first ever guest on Juvie who's been to Juvie. So today we're going to get the whole jail, prison, Juvie experience. Everybody welcome Dom.
Hi, I'm Dom.
How's it going? How's your day going?
Good, man. It's a good one. It was a busy one. We're right here. It's a comfortable chair.
Love that.
Playing, yeah.
So before we hopped on the show, you said that you've been invited on other podcasts, but we're the first one you've said yes to.
Yeah.
Why'd you say yes to Juvie first?
I watched your guys' clips, and I think that, like, whenever people, I don't think it's a bad thing that it's intense when people, talk about transformation and all that. It's a dope thing, but it's oftentimes a little too intense for me, and we forget, like, there's a lot of funny stories in there too.
True.
There's other people involved, and watching your guys' clips, it just seemed really genuine, human, funny at times. The idea that it's focused on like younger people too is kind of fun for me because it just seems a little less like political, a little less like agenda, and we can just like have a conversation, talk about it. Influence people, encourage, make people laugh. I'm all about that.
Love it.
That's what we love as well.
Yeah, dude, this was 100% yes. Yeah,
we love
easy
that.
Yes.
So for anybody who doesn't know you, do you want to give a quick introduction, who you are, name, age, everything like that?
Yeah. I'm Dominic, whichever you would prefer. I'm 25. I work at Theory with Josh. We sling beans.
We do.
I'm married. I have a wife named Andrea. She's the coolest. Shout out to Andrea, love of my life. We have a dog named Maddie.
What kind of dog?
He is a giant schnauzer, giant schnoodle.
What kind of mix is that?
A schnauzer and poodle mix.
Love it.
He's
That's
gorgeous.
awesome.
We have a cat. He's all right.
So you say you're more of a dog guy than a cat guy?
Absolutely.
As it should be.
I am, but I love the cat, man.
Yeah.
His name's Nelly. We have Nelly and Maddie.
Let's go, Nelly.
That's awesome.
I know.
Well, I think our goal for today's episode is really just to tell your life story up until your age right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to take it back to square one here. So, as a kid growing up, what did the childhood scene look like?
Yeah. I am from Indiana. I'm a Midwestern boy. I would say that I had a pretty classic Indiana Midwestern childhood. I was adopted, so that was, obviously interesting. My parents are some of the coolest people in the world. I love them. They put a lot of their energy into loving me, loving my siblings. Pretty big sports, family, a lot of, growing up. I didn't like the social aspect of sports. I wasn't a very social kid.
Yeah.
I preferred the indoors and reading, video games. I was obsessed with TV and movies when I was a kid. But yeah, it was pretty normal childhood. I have a little brother named Dawson. He's grown to be probably one of my best friends in the whole world.
Awesome. Love that.
Love him. Little sister Caitlin and her husband Riley, they're super awesome too. But yeah, pretty normal childhood for the most part.
So did your parents adopt all of your siblings, or were you?
No, they honestly, they had miscarriages before adopting me, and so they were trying to, and then my biological parents approached them after they had their third miscarriage and asked if they wanted to adopt me.
Okay.
And they were obviously, we just lost a child.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but my dad told me, you know, as he like met with his, you know, mentors or whatever, they were like, I don't know, man. Like, you guys are praying for a child. It kind of seems like this is, you know, God trying to provide you a child.
Yeah.
So they adopted me. And
What age were you when you got adopted?
I was taken home from the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was
Okay.
adopted
So it's pre-birth
within the
adoption.
family.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
they like got to take me home from the hospital
Wow.
and everything. And then it became official, you know, like 6 months later. And then, yeah, kind of crazy, but 10 months later, my sister comes along,
Wow.
you know, 3 years later, little Dawson comes along.
That's
and
awesome.
those 3 kids that were lost, you know, God, you know, provided.
Oh, so you were the first kid
I
your
was the
parents had?
first, man.
Oh, I love
I
that.
know.
That's really awesome.
Kind of wild.
So you said growing up, video games, books, movies. What were you playing on the sticks as a kid? What was it?
When I was a kid, my first thing was Nintendo 64.
Okay.
I just remember being obsessed with like the motocross game.
That was before
Yeah.
our time, Josh.
Just a little bit though. But then the PlayStation 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
came out.
Okay.
Oh, bro. And that was like,
That was
that
it.
was it.
Dude, the original GTA on PlayStation 1.
I wasn't allowed to play those.
Really?
I'm still not allowed to this day.
Really?
My mom has heard too much bad about it.
Dude, honestly, she ain't wrong.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, the only time I've ever played it was with Ali, like last year, because she still has it on her PlayStation 1.
that is
funny. But yeah, so at what point did you start maybe going down a path that led you to
Yeah.
where you went?
Dude, honestly, I mean, I'm not much older than you guys. Honestly, I don't really view myself as like but I think that, you know, terms like ADHD, bipolar, they're a little bit more common these days, right? It's
Sure.
a little less, well, I just say it's appreciated a little more, right? Like
Yeah.
it's something that people nowadays go a little bit more out of their way to either help kids with. It's not as weird. Some people even like it's a little trendy these days.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It wasn't like that when I was a kid, you know? And so, I was first diagnosed with ADHD. My mom will probably correct me if she listens to this. I think around like 8, 9, as well as bipolar. So obviously the medication from that, I think really messed with me. I, was a super scrawny kid, right? When I was up until being diagnosed with bipolar.
Okay.
Medication messed me up and destroyed my metabolism. So I gained a bunch of weight. I'm in like elementary school, you know,
Yeah.
so it's like a awkward time to gain a bunch of weight.
Yeah.
And then obviously having those two things messed with me in a lot of ways. I think that I had some really awesome teachers. I had some teachers that would just like go way out of their way, up through high school to help me. But there was also a lot of teachers that like, they don't really care.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just annoying. You know,
Yeah.
it was just annoying. So I would say like when I think about it, I kind of look back to then, you know, probably 4th, 5th grade, really was when a lot changed.
What kind of kid were you in school? Were you the studious kid, you playing sports, or just the class clown?
Dude, I was a class clown, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, school was horrible. I hated school
Me
so
too.
much. Dude, I lived for just being around the girls. And class clowning, recess.
So you know what's interesting about the class clown is like through social media now you see like the class clown when they go home then they're sad. How realistic was that in these middle
100%.
school?
Yeah.
100%, dude. I hated. I think I was definitely depressed. I definitely lived for, you know, either entertainment. It was like entertainment, food, and making people laugh. Those were like, so if I wasn't doing one of those things, I was like depressed. I didn't know what to do. So many thoughts going on in my head, man. I didn't like to be alone. Hated homework. Holy crap.
course.
Yeah.
I hated homework. I probably didn't do a bit of homework from 4th grade up until I got kicked out of high school. I didn't do a lick of homework.
Yeah.
I hated it. So it was very much like that, you know?
Yeah.
I was also a liar. Lied my
Okay.
face off all the time when I was a kid.
What do you think that came from?
Oh, I just didn't like who I was. You know, a lot of people I think blame like TV and movies for that. Obviously, it can be a contributor for
Yeah.
sure, but I think I just didn't like. I had like the weight of the world on my shoulders, you know, and it's like that classic kid pressure to be a world changer, but you're
Yeah.
like 9, you know?
Yeah.
So I would like lie to girls about like having superpowers, you know, just like the dumbest.
Yeah.
stuff.
How were you just never gonna show him?
Yeah. that's
Okay.
Like
I have
can't
super
show
speed,
you.
but I can't show you
I
because I'd
can't
have to
show
kill you.
you know, type stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like, but it really came from me like not liking who I was and
Yeah.
feeling like I should be something greater than just like a kid.
Yeah, because if you start telling other people that, maybe you'll start to believe it.
Dude,
and then
that's
you're
what
like,
I'm saying, yeah. And then it would kind of, I'd go home and be like, do I, you know,
No.
is that why I feel that way? Like,
No, I was the same way in school. I was literally telling you about this earlier, Ali, when I was biking to school and I was like, people probably find me boring, so I'm gonna come up with a crazy story. I said that I saw a bear and then a deer started chasing me and it chased me for like a mile all the way to school and that like if the deer, I was like scared that the deer was gonna spook the bear and then the bear would start chasing me.
Yeah.
And I just made this up.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and then I fell off my bike and got back up and like ran back. And I was like, I don't know why I just made that up out of nowhere.
That's like the dumbest lie ever. But
Yeah.
there was like a weird identity thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
And then I'd finally get attention from people
Yeah.
to be like, whoa, that
that's what I'm
happened.
saying. So I was that kid that would get caught up in a lot of those and lost track of what was true and what
Yeah.
wasn't. And very much that class clown that went home and
Yeah.
was depressed.
Were there any pranks that you pulled in middle school that you still think of to this day?
Dude, you know, I was actually never really a prankster.
Okay.
That was not something that I ever, I don't know why I never really got into pranking. I mean, I like to make people uncomfortable, I think was my thing with jokes.
Okay.
Just saying what, and maybe you've experienced this at work a little bit. I just like to say what
Everyone's thinking.
Yeah.
everybody's thinking.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. It just makes people uncomfortable. So I was that kid that would like just say the most weird, awkward things, but
Dom is still very much the class clown at Theory.
it's true. Yeah. But I don't know why. I'm not a good prankster.
Mm.
That's the truth. When pranks come up, I'm kind of like, I don't really know. I don't really know what to do.
That's too good. I like to consider myself a kind of a prankster, but they don't really work most of the time.
I mean,
It's hard to pull it off.
It's a
Yeah,
tough
it's
one.
tough. Yeah.
Okay, so we're in middle school. You get diagnosed with ADHD. You get on the medications. We know you're the class clown. So after this is happening in school and you're coming home, what's the home situation look like? Are your parents like, Dom, why are you not doing your homework? Or could they understand?
man, they tried. Looking back in the moment, I didn't think they were trying to understand.
Yeah.
You know? Looking back, they definitely tried to understand, and they did everything that, you know, if it was like, oh, this works for them, let's try that, you know? I remember like, I always struggled to wake up for school.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you didn't wake me up, I just wouldn't go. I'd just sleep in. So my like mom read somewhere that kids with bipolar wake up better if they don't have a fan blowing on them.
Okay.
Dumb stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then she'd start turning off the fan. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think that they tried, you know, I did a lot of like child therapy, you know, a lot of different, like my parents did the medication, different like incentives, you know, goals
Yeah.
and different things like that. But, I think that, it was stuff that they personally did not deal with.
Yeah.
And I think that it's hard if you didn't deal with that specific thing to really understand. So I think that they definitely tried their best and were definitely firsthand affected
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
it. It changed their lives in a lot of ways, but I don't know if they've ever fully understood.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's nearly impossible to help someone through something that they've never been through before.
100%.
And I feel like as a kid, if you're struggling with something like that, when somebody's trying to help you, you don't really see it as help. You feel like they're trying to fix you because you feel like you're broken and they're like trying to fix
100%.
you. And then that makes you reject the help completely. So did that kind of lead to you maybe rebelling?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was a rebel. That was like my first ever. It's like you ever told me I couldn't do something. Still to this day, if you tell me that I can't do something, I'm like, I want to do that. I don't even know why I want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So I was very much a rebel child. I wish that I, looking back, understood how much they were trying to help rather than seeing them as the enemy. Because I think I like my life now, but I think that I definitely wouldn't have had to go through as many things if I had a little bit different of a perspective on the fact that they were trying to. I feel blessed. I see a lot of situations nowadays where, you know, parents, they just don't really care. Or I get a lot of the like nurture parenting stuff these days. A lot of that stuff is really cool.
Yeah.
You know, but it's also like, I don't think they've had a child like me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so I think that, I feel really blessed that my parents were, even as I got older in high school, willing to like, even like ground me or be like stern or be like, no, you can't do that. That's not okay.
So they didn't just kind of let you have your time, even though like,
Oh no, bro.
yeah.
Oh no, they were very, like, they ended up kicking me out when I was kicked out of high school. Not to like leap ahead too much or whatever, but I ended up being kicked out of high school for being high on campus. And, you know, they were like, I mean, you're either going to work or you're going to go to school or you're going to like leave.
Yeah.
So I did like this alternative school for a while, which was really dope. And I loved the teachers there. But when I dropped out of that, when I turned 18, they were like, well, then my parents were like, well, you got to go.
Yeah.
You can't stay here because we're not gonna like support anything that you're doing. You're out there getting high. You're coming home at,
Especially with the younger siblings and stuff like
100%,
that.
and it was like destroying my little siblings' life. So like they gave me the boot. They were like, you know, if you ever want to have dinner, we're here. Like the door is always open for dinner if you want to come have dinner with us. But other than that, like you're not welcome.
It always makes me wonder, how do you try to understand that in the moment? Because I can imagine there's teenagers in the situation now and they're like, well, this sounds like a great story and how it turned out. But it's like in the moment, I don't know if there is a way to comprehend that it is all for a better cause.
Yeah.
What would, now looking back at young Dom, if there was one thing that you could have told him, be like, what would that have been?
That's like the toughest question in the world.
It's hard.
I don't really know, because like the statistics are against my story. Like they really are. And I think that like, I wish that there was a magic thing you could say, but I think for me, and especially like, here's a good thing, right? This is not my wisdom. This is my father-in-law's, but, so my wife and I, Andrea, we want to have kids someday, right? And so obviously you talked about things like, are we going to spank them? Are we going to do this?
Yeah.
And you try to make all these decisions beforehand, right? To be prepared or whatever. So we're at a winery and we're talking about this and everybody's going back and forth. We're talking with my in-laws, the family basically. And then, all of a sudden my father-in-law goes like, you want to know what I think? He was like, I think that you can't make that decision now because like you're going to have like this individual child. And I think the best thing that you can do is treat them as such and be present with what is going on in this situation. Like, essentially, like, don't make that decision now whether you're not going to do this or are, because what if you say I'm not and that's what they need? What if you say I am going to do that and that's not what they need?
Yeah, because you could have like two kids who do the exact same mistake.
Absolutely.
But then the punishment will be completely differently like responded.
Yep.
So like you could ground one kid and they could take it super well.
Yeah.
But if you ground the other kid, they could hop out the window, you'd never see them again. Like
that's what I'm saying. So that to me is like, you know, if anybody ever comes up and is like, oh, my son is this, right? Or my daughter, or what should I do? I'm like, man, I don't really know. Like, what do they need? Like, what does it look like? Like, honestly, pray about it. Cause I feel like the only solution that I've ever seen is Jesus stepping in and changing their lives. Like, that's there needs to be like healing there. There needs to be, you know, I didn't just do heroin cause I liked it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I did. And it was so fun. I had so much fun at times being out on the streets, doing drugs, doing whatever I wanted to do. I can't lie about that. But also there was like some really low moments that really sucked. And the only reason I kept doing it was because I was damaged.
Yeah.
And I needed to find healing. So whenever people ask, I'm like, what do they need? Like, what does healing look like?
So what did you need in that moment? Is it what your parents decided to do?
Them kicking me out? Absolutely.
That's what you needed.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was like the best decision they ever could have made. I don't think that anything else would have worked.
Yeah.
Still to this day, I'm not necessarily someone that you can change my perspective if I have one. You gotta like give me some really good. It probably pisses my wife off more than anybody. You know, she's like doing this college stuff right now and she's coming at me with like legitimate information about like things and she'll try to tell me and I'll be like, nah. She's like, what do you think different? I'm like, just cause like, so, you know, I really think that kind of sending me out to figure it out on my own was the best thing
Yeah.
Yeah.
that they could have done for
Yeah.
sure. I'm
Yeah.
very grateful for that. Might actually be one of the more consistent things I tell parents if they ask, like, kick them out.
Just throw the hammer down.
Just throw the hammer down.
I think
you know,
at some point the kid's just taking advantage, right?
Yeah.
Honestly.
If you would have been able to stay there, you would have just been.
and that's what I was
causing
doing. That's what, I was like always lying about some concert, something I needed money for.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't take no for an answer. Or if it was a no, then I would just take it from him.
Yeah.
Like there was no good outcome of me continuing to be there. There just
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
So that
Because
was,
once you kick a kid out, that's when they have to learn that if they want to support that, they have to make all the money for it, or like they have to make all the decisions themselves.
Yep.
They don't have any comfort
Yep.
like at all.
you find out who your real friends are. You
Yeah.
find out that there really is no place to stay.
Mm.
You find out that being grown up is not as fun
Yeah.
as it sounds.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I didn't rush
Mm.
to be all grown up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's reel it back a little bit. What was like the chain of events that led you to being at the place where you got kicked out of high school?
Yeah. When I was 14, I was sent to like a juvenile boys home, right? In southern Missouri. It was called Masters Ranch and Christian Academy.
Okay.
Southern Baptist to the core.
That's
Yeah.
scary.
First ever experience I had was Southern Baptist, right? And my parents sent me there.
And, so it wasn't. You didn't break the law.
Not yet. No,
Okay,
not yet.
okay.
That was there.
This was preemptive.
This is yeah.
Okay.
And I was one of the younger kids there, right? And there was all these like grown up kids from California, from New York, from like big cities that at that point I hadn't been around very much.
Yeah.
Gangbangers, kids coming out of some real serious situations. And then there's like little old me who hadn't even touched drugs yet.
Yeah.
Mm.
Actually, I think I like drank once, smoked weed once type situation. Maybe hadn't even touched weed yet, actually. And I was so out of place because I don't think that I actually should have ended up there type situation, right? There's kids where it's like you look at their family situation, you look at everything around them, and it's like, of course you ended up here.
Yeah.
And then there's me who just wasn't appreciative of anything that I was ever given.
Yeah.
So then I started lying about being this like gangbanger and, lying about all this different stuff, and obviously made no friends doing that. So then
Yeah.
I was out of place there. I can't remember how far in I was, maybe like 3 or 4 months. Again, my mom's probably going to correct me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she keeps all this stuff.
Yeah.
She's good at it. I broke out
Okay.
with 2 of my friends.
You
in the middle of the
escaped
night.
Juvenile Hall, or
Yeah,
this?
we broke out.
Wow. Okay.
And we stole bikes and rode probably 4 miles,
Oh my gosh.
5 miles to a gas station.
Okay. Was it like one of those places where it's just out in the
It
wilderness?
was the Boonies.
Yeah.
It was Yeehawville for sure.
So were you planning this escape?
Dude, as I remember it, and I'll be honest, like up until I got off drugs, everything kind of feels like a dream.
Yeah.
So I miss, some of it's a little foggy, but essentially I remember, our punishments there were like more physical, where you would have to do like workouts or physical labor.
Yeah.
And I think I got in trouble for something. I don't remember what. And I'm out doing yard work. And I think this is so crazy, but I think I literally just made a joke to one of my friends. Like, you ever thought about like breaking out just to be funny?
Yeah.
And he gets this dead serious look in his eyes. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, bro, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. And we go back, and then a few hours later, him and my other friend come and approach me, and they're like, bro, we're like actually doing it. And they like basically told me that they had this whole plan. And I just kind of was like, I had no interest in breaking out, but I was like, if I say no, I'm just going to be like the loser that said no.
Yeah.
So I did it.
Could I hear what the plan that they presented you with was?
Oh, dude, I don't remember. It was like wake up at, 2 a.m., we're going to break into the kitchen and we're going to steal whatever we need to like survive off the land.
Were you in like cells, or paint the picture for it?
No, yeah. So essentially what it was, I mean, it was in the boonies. It was, you ever seen like holes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, this is what I've been imagining the whole time.
You know how it's
Yes.
like, it wasn't desert.
It's like barracks.
that. So this is the Ozarks of Missouri. So it's like valleys and trees. But essentially it was like, we don't really need a fence here because it's like, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
You type situation.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, it was, every place has its problems, but it was a great place. I don't think people really wanted to break out. It had happened before, but we're in the middle of the Ozarks. So it's like, we don't need no fences. Bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because how are they going to walk out of here?
so it was like, it was like a farm style house with a huge dormitory in the bottom with like 40 bunks.
Okay.
Right. And you had, like a big, so you go up the stairs from the dorm and you have like a big like eating area. You got a kitchen and then a big old yard on the property. And so the plan was to wake up 2 a.m. We were going to go upstairs. We were going to bust into the kitchen did have locks. The freezer had locks. So, they had some sort of plan to get into those. We ended up stealing like a couple loaves of bread and some like milk jugs. You know?
Nice.
And then we took some bikes, you know, nothing crazy. You know, we didn't have to like scale any fences.
Yeah.
You know, take anybody out or anything weird. It was like that whole situation where it's like,
Wow.
you know, we're on the boonies. Like, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
So we ride those bikes like 4 or 5 miles to a gas station where we, threw a brick through one of the big windows and, stole, I don't even think we touched the money. I think it was literally just cigarettes is all we wanted, man. We were fiending for some smokes.
Yeah.
And beer. Cigarettes and beer, you know, the priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we broke in, took the stuff, and then we ended up trying to go into like the marsh behind the gas station, and it was horrid. It was like we couldn't even make it. Like there was thorns.
Oh.
So then we had to going back by the gas station, going down the road a little bit, and we saw this like wooded area where we hung out for a few hours. Sun's coming up, and we stumble upon this truck with like $600-700 cash.
Oh my
in it.
gosh.
I know, crazy.
Just like a pickup truck?
Yeah, I think what I've been told after was the guy was going to the dentist or something crazy like that. Had cash ready to go. We took that, continued to hang out in the woods till they found us. They were literally driving by and somehow saw us up the hill.
What was the plan if they didn't find you?
Yeah.
We were going to Michigan. We were going to, one of them was from Michigan. We were kids, so there was like a plan, but it was also like,
How old were you?
I was 14.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe had just turned 15.
Wow.
How far is Michigan away from like where you were?
Far.
So how are you going to get there?
We were gonna walk, hitchhike,
Oh my gosh. Wow.
live off the land. I know it's so
Live
I
off
look
the
back,
milk and bread.
Yeah, I look back and it was without a doubt. I've done some dumb things in my life.
Wow.
That was without the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. And so they see us and we hear gunshots. And so, you know, the second gunshot I dropped and I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to get shot at.
They were going to shoot you?
This is not going to happen. From what I have been told, we weren't being shot at.
They're like
Someone
warning
was shooting
shots.
into the air.
Oh, okay.
Scared.
I don't know
Okay.
if they were shooting at us or not. I doubt it. I mean, we're kids.
Yeah.
There was gunshots. I've never been around that before in my life.
Yeah.
So I dropped.
Did the other guys run off?
Yeah, they threatened me. They were like, dude, if you do not get up. And I was on the ground with my hands up, screaming, I'm done. I'm not doing nothing.
Yeah.
And, they threatened me. They were like, if you don't shut up, like you're dead. Like,
Wow.
get up. We're leaving. And I'm like, no. There's
How far
Yeah.
are they from you?
No, it's, so picture like, I'm trying to picture like a hill.
Okay.
You know, not
Yeah.
a crazy hill, but a hill. They were down the hill.
Okay.
So they come handcuff us, take us to jail. The pastor of the boys' school I was at, his name's Pastor Bosley, Pastor David Bosley, still to this day, one of my favorite humans
Wow.
in the entire planet. He is literally like, I can't even begin to like brag on this human. Like all my words fall short. Like, he defies all the odds. You know, I mean, he was like a Marine cop,
Yeah.
Wow.
you know, in his younger age, and is now like a Southern Baptist pastor. Stands at like 6'5", 6'6", big old dude.
Yeah.
Motorcycle rider, you know,
Yeah.
with like a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Just like, he loved me more than almost anybody I've ever met in my life. Like, it would be like my wife, my parents, and then it would be like Pastor Bosley.
Wow.
Up there, like, with my family.
Yeah.
So he comes to the jail, and I'm obviously crying. You know, I didn't even want to do it, but I did it. So I'm just like, I feel stupid. I
Yeah.
feel regret. And yeah, they were the crazy thing about the money, right, is if it was like $450, if it was like $499, it would have been a misdemeanor, right?
Yep.
But anything over 500 is an automatic grand theft.
Really?
Yeah. So then in Missouri,
So it's like just enough to get like a really serious offense.
dog. And then in Missouri, it is a felony to break out of any sort of juvenile facility.
Oh gosh.
And then on top of that, you know,
The window in
the window.
So you cops 2 felonies at 14?
I think it was actually more like 3 or 4 felonies with
at
like
14.
yeah,
Wow.
with like misdemeanors
Yeah.
tagged on
Oh my
in the
gosh.
like teens. You know,
That's
if I remember
crazy.
correctly, again, it's all foggy. So at that point, I am looking at doing some serious time
Yeah.
as like a kid. And out of the mercies of Pastor Bosley's heart, he works out for us to come back.
Oh my
all
Wow.
3 of us.
Wow.
And then at that point,
How did he
court
swing that?
Dude, I don't know. I mean, he's like a respected guy in
Yeah.
the area. And then obviously, you know, first off, I think he must have bailed us out.
Yeah.
That was never said, but that must have happened. Like, there's no way they just let us
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And then obviously we had to go through like the court process and all that fun jazz. I was court ordered there. I was court ordered to do like therapy of sorts, like counseling. Court ordered to do, what is it when you have to do like manual labor?
Oh. Yes.
Community service.
Community service, yeah.
Yep. So then I was like there,
Wow.
you know.
So before you know you're getting bailed out, you're 14, you're walking into jail. What's going through your head?
Bro, I didn't even know how to process. I was a kid. I didn't even know how to process it, you know. I was scared. I would love to look back and be like, I was ready. I was tough, but
Yeah.
I was so scared off my rocker, dude. Like, you know, all of my life's decisions were kind of like looking me in the eye. Then I kind of wish that could have been the turning point for me.
Yeah.
That would have been like a really solid turning point.
Yeah.
14, go through that, get my stuff together a little bit, but nope.
So after
just beginning.
14, it just keeps escalating.
Oh yeah.
When's the next point where it hits another?
Yeah, I mean, I graduated from that school, but it
Okay.
was essentially like Pastor Bosley pulled me off to the side and was like, look, like at this point, I don't really know. Like, I'm graduating you because it's time, but like, you're not it. Like, you haven't figured
Yeah.
it out, you know? And I just continued to lie and get in trouble, and, you know, I hadn't changed through it, you know? I didn't appreciate what Pastor Bosley had done for me. So then, right, I go home, I'm 16, I'm in high school, right? And with all the like PT and hard work, you know, I did like ranch work there. You know, I'm in pretty good shape for a 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I fell in love with playing football there at the ranch. So I joined the football team in high school, but it's just a bunch of tools.
Are you coming back to your hometown?
Yep, coming back.
So
I'm
is it
back in
people that you
Indiana.
knew as kids?
Oh yeah, bro.
Wow.
And you're back
So
living with
I'm
your
like
parents.
gone for like a year and a half, 2 years. and
Oh,
then
Does
I
anyone
come
really
back.
know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah, everybody's very aware. It was kind of like a homecoming type thing for my school.
Yeah.
Lots of people were excited. Lots of people were scared of me. You know, I had like a reputation. I obviously flexed that reputation a little bit more
Yeah.
than I should have.
So you had more street cred than a 16-year-old should.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And then on top of that, you know, I was like a lame, nerdy little emo kid before I left, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Skinny jean wearing, you know, straighten your hair, painted nails.
Oh, okay.
And now you're just like a
Dude, I come back thugging.
That's
Like
so
that was
funny.
my mentality.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a thug now.
What were the
That's what I'm
fits
gonna
looking like?
do. Dude, shorts that were way too baggy.
Of course.
you know. Up until, I'll say this, I fell in love with Mac Miller.
Okay.
And
Love Mac
then
Miller.
he was like my idol, right? So
Okay.
it was like anytime Mac Miller would pull out a new fit,
That was it.
Yeah.
Did you have any tats at this point? 'Cause I see you have tats
No,
now.
dude, I didn't get any tattoos till I was kicked out of school. But you know, Schoolboy Q and Mac Miller, they started wearing like the bucket caps.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I started wearing the bucket caps and the Nike jackets and the I don't know if joggers are still like in, but that was when joggers first like hit the scene.
Okay.
Like the Adidas stripe ones?
No, like the tan.
Oh, okay.
The
like
tan
the jumpsuit ones
yeah,
with the matching top, the tracksuits.
bro, rocked it.
The early
rocked it.
2000s. I love it.
So there was a story that you told me about that I completely forgot to mention. I don't know what age around it was about. You said that there was this kid who used to pick on your brother.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that was when I was like 10, 11 years
Okay.
old. So I'll keep the names out.
Yeah.
Not because I think that they would listen, but just to keep the integrity of the story, just in case anybody does. But there was this kid from my hometown who was like the kid. He was like the toughest kid on the block, right?
Yeah.
Ended up doing like some for real juvie in prison time later on. But he was like the kid that everybody was like afraid of. You know, he was like the toughest kid. And I don't know if you guys, what's the energy drink that are
Red Bull,
it's like
Monster.
Scorpion? Is there a Scorpion one?
Oh, I've heard of it.
Probably.
yeah, they were like
Venom?
Venom,
Yes.
bro,
yes.
Venom. So this is when like Venom first like became real poppin', and I'm just like on my lonesome walking around my town, got myself a Venom energy drink or whatever, and I rolled through the park, like the basketball hoops, and this kid was sitting there, and actually looking back, I'm like, I don't know when he would have interacted with my little brother, because he's like 3 years younger, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, he was like the quietest kid around. He was just like the sweet little Dawson, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know when they would have interacted, but he started calling my little brother a derogatory term for a homosexual.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll say that. And I was like, bro, like there's no reason for that. Like probably I said it in a less,
Yeah.
yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And he just kept saying it. So I was like, dude, if you keep saying that, like, I'm gonna mess you up. Obviously, I said it a lot.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm
Scarier, right?
Yeah, there's like
Yeah.
kids that listen to this, teachers.
Yeah.
And he just kept saying it. So I threw the entire unopened Venom and hit him in the face with it, and then proceeded to absolutely mop the floor with this kid. And I think like I had not had any fighting experience at this time. This is
It
like
was
one
just
of my
pure
first
aggression.
ever fights.
Yeah.
It was just pure aggression. And I just swept the floor with this kid. I beat him so bad I ended up breaking my hand on his face.
Oh my gosh.
And things changed for me a little bit at that time. It was almost like, because I was such a scrawny little kid, I was like, oh, maybe I can be tough.
Yeah.
Maybe I actually am tough. I am one of the tough kids. And that changed, honestly, to this day, probably my confidence when it comes to like physical altercations, even
Yeah.
as a 25-year-old man, when there's like things. I just remember the time when I was 9 and I mopped the floor with this kid, but
Yeah.
it really did change my life forever because I won that fight.
So
Yeah.
you recommend most 9-year-olds just go throw some
Just do
hands?
it. Find that bully and just throw those hands.
Also, Venom, let's get Domo sponsorship.
You know what's funny? The only reason I know is it's because it's the cheapest one in the gas station. It's 99 cents.
Is it really?
Yeah, and I don't know if it was back
It has
then.
to be so bad for you.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I tried it one time and it gave me an immediate headache.
Really?
But what's funny is me and Josh have talked about this. As a young boy, you just have that itch to just see how
Hard.
bad.
Yeah.
You just want to punch, right?
Yeah.
dude.
It's that first boost of testosterone. You're like, I just want to mess someone up.
I
Yeah.
think that this world, I really do think that so many kids would be better off if they did mixed martial arts.
I think
Yeah.
that's super true.
Like
Do
my
boxing, do something, wrestle.
yeah.
Wrestling's not it.
No, that's
Wrestling's different.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, there is a reason boys won't put their hands on each other. I'm telling you, there is a reason they want to throw hands.
Yeah,
What is
because
that?
as a kid, I've never once felt bare knuckle to my face. Like I've never been punched in the face. I've never been beat up, and I've always
we need
wanted
to do a live
like
podcast where we just just box.
Literally.
Speaking
I'll
of.
punch
Yeah.
you in the face.
Right now.
It's so funny that you say that because me and Joseph had this exact conversation. Just that pure aggression. You just want. I think you just want to see how far you can push yourself.
Dude, I'm one of those weirdos that really does believe in the caveman instincts when it comes to men.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that at the core of who we are is we're hunters, we're fighters, we're protectors.
Yeah.
And I was thinking this today. I'm like, honestly, it doesn't matter how flamboyant you are. I see that. I see that in so many men.
Yeah.
And I think that so many kids would be better off. I think so many less would be like prescribed as ADHD.
It's a great point.
I think so many kids would be like prescribed with less mental issues.
Yeah.
If they had a safe place to get that energy out.
And I
Yeah.
think when it doesn't come out in aggression, it comes out in control. For the people that aren't physical, you see it play out. You know, you're saying like
100%.
when they're flamboyant, then usually they want to control the situation.
100%.
Yeah, because also like no matter who you are, if somebody kicks your kid or like hurts
That's what I
your
mean, it's
brother,
little brother.
you're gonna attack.
I was thinking that situation.
You have
I was like,
to protect.
I mean, I have this platform, but if I was in that situation, someone's my little brother, my little sister,
Oh,
Dude, that's
yeah.
I don't. It
Yeah.
all goes out the window.
And even for me, I was never like I was never like your typical like boy, or even now as a man. Like I'm not. I have a lot of flamboyant tendencies, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest. Like,
Yeah.
I care about how I dress. I care about how I look. I now have like a skin routine that I do. You know.
Yeah.
I like poetry and art.
Yeah.
I cry during every movie. You can't put a movie on without. I cried watching Ant-Man the other night. You know, but it's like at the end of the day, I had a dream last night. Actually, I had a dream last night that someone was messing with my wife, and I hurt them.
Yeah.
Like it is at
Yeah.
and I really don't see myself as like a redneck, like honcho manly man. Like there's
Yeah.
not many things. Dude, I don't like football. I
Yeah.
don't really, college football. I love college football, but there's so many things about me. But at the end of the day, there are things within inside me. Like I kind of just want to get violent every now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. So I'm assuming that from that one moment that made you realize there's something about violence, aggression, fighting, like that you really enjoyed, which I'm sure led to where we were caught up with the story at that point. So now back to that point, you've graduated from that place. You're now back in high school. Where does it start going back off the track?
Almost immediately.
Okay.
Yeah, almost immediately. I joined the football team. I thought that would be the answer. It was just a bunch of tools. Honestly, it was just a bunch of guys that thought that they were better than everyone.
Yeah.
I was obviously a little bit older, you know, and a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. Fighting was always a problem for me, especially then. I just had a lot of anger. So it was like fights every other day, you know, on a weekly basis, getting in fights.
Was it that like you being like a bully, or was it just like
I
picking on?
definitely had some bully tendencies, that's
Okay.
for sure. But it didn't matter the size of the person. I think I just wanted to fight. I just wanted to like get that out. And I didn't have, you know, I did a little bit of mixed martial arts and boxing when I was in Missouri. But there wasn't really an outlet for that. You know, where I was in Indiana. Plus, honestly, dude, I wasn't disciplined. And there's like so much discipline that goes into boxing and mixed martial arts that I didn't want to have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to fight. So that was obviously a huge problem. And then that was when I started, you know, experimenting with drugs, alcohol. For me, it started not with pot. I know that's like what everybody wants to hear. That like I smoked marijuana once and then was, you know, a heroin addict, but that wasn't my situation. For me, it was pills, actually. I started, you know, Xanax, morphine, Vicodin, all that stuff. And then drinking, until I was kicked out of school because I showed up on pills. And then once I was in that alternative school, you know, there was like some more like-minded kids.
Yeah.
And that was where it started escalating to a lot of like psychedelics and heavier drugs. That's when
Was it just accessible through high school?
Yeah, it was pretty accessible, honestly.
Do you think it's more accessible now through social media?
From what I hear, yeah. I was just listening to like an interview with Dr. Phil where I was just talking about how so accessible this stuff is for kids.
Yeah.
And I could totally see that. I think it's just always been accessible, and you know, I think that's a whole rabbit trail of itself where you can get into like the government and you can get into like the prison system and all that stuff. But it's whatever.
So after you leave high school, you go to this alternative school. How fast do things escalate?
Very fast. Very fast. Yeah. I fell in love with drugs. That was like, the typical picture you get of like a drug addict is like you, as a young drug addict, not like a homeless drug addict you see on the streets, is like, really good example. Here's a really good example. Euphoria TV show right now, which I loved. I won't dig on it at all. I loved it. But my one problem that I had with it, and the only thing, was how cool they made Rue. She's like the drug addict, right?
Is that Zendaya's character?
That's Zendaya's character, which she crushed. This is not anything to do with Zendaya. She crushed it. But it was like, plus it's A24.
Yeah.
They did it. So I love A24. But she's just is like the coolest character in the whole show. And, I think that there is also like a sexual aspect to like drugs in TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't care about any of that. I didn't care about sex. I didn't care about money. I didn't care about anything. The only thing that I cared about was getting high.
Yeah.
And that was like from the first time. I truly don't think I will ever in my entire life forget the first time I used heroin. And I kid you not. So I'm like 18 years old. I'm in a room with two of my friends and my buddy has heroin. And the first time I ever used it was through a needle. And he goes, dude, I'll shoot some in you if you want. And, he shot it into my hand, and I was like a pretty big guy at the time. So it didn't hit me like right away. And I always thought that it was like supposed to be like this immediate like thing.
Yeah.
I felt nothing for like a second. That was my first thought. Why don't I feel it? And then the very next thought, I felt it. And I just immediately was like, oh crap. Like, what did I just do?
What did it feel like?
Dude, like, I can't even begin. I mean, I hate to say it. It just felt good.
Yeah.
Like, it was like if you've ever had a headache and the ibuprofen takes away the headache, or you're ever like too hot and that AC kicks on, or vice versa, it's that same feeling.
Okay.
Like, but it's like in your veins.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that it felt, but it did. But my very first thought immediately as soon as I felt it was like, I just made the biggest mistake of my life.
Because you're like, I'm now obsessed with this.
And I conked. And then I fell back on the bed. And then immediately, as soon as I started thinking again, it was, how do I get more?
Really?
I asked my friend, I was like, when will this wear off? He was like, I'm probably like 2 hours for you. And I was like, all right, we got to get more by this 2 hours. And then immediately, that was literally what my life was like from that moment on.
Yeah.
It's, how do I get more?
Gosh.
Because my only experience with like anything to do with drugs has been watching Breaking Bad.
Really?
So I don't really know much about it, but I've seen how like immediately you're addicted to this.
Yeah.
Like you put it straight into the vein, and then like all of a sudden it just takes over everything.
I feel like Jesse is a pretty good like picture of what it's like to be a drug addict.
Yeah.
His struggles are pretty like, because as much as we like to make it out like drug addicts just don't care about anything, that's not true.
Yeah.
I care about drugs.
You just care more about drugs than anything.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I would have now they were rare. I would say that like maybe you see Jesse kind of like contemplate a little bit more than I would say I did for sure. But it was like from that moment on, I didn't care about anything other than getting high, and I would do anything to get high.
What were the downfalls after this happened? Like, what were the biggest things that changed in your life?
I mean, dude, had no friends, and that was the truest thing. Like, I was one of those people that would like steal your wallet and like help you look for it, And I don't know if I had any friends that were as addicted as I was. So it was like I would betray any of my friends for anything.
Yeah.
I was unreliable. I was mean. I was brutal. I was violent.
So you'd fight for you, like
100%. 100%. That was when the like robbing and the, you know, drug dealing kind of started was when I was kicked out. When I dropped out of the alternative school and my parents kicked me out, it opened up the door then to start like actually dealing drugs.
Did they know the full situation at this point?
No. I mean, they're like aware, like they weren't dumb, my parents. I think that, well, yeah, like I remember my mom telling me like, you know, anytime the phone rang type situation, it was just immediate, you know, fear. Anytime she heard an ambulance, she would think it was like for me.
Mm-hmm.
They were definitely aware of how bad it was, but it's not something that I've like sat down with them and been like, hey, this is what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think that would be like helpful for our relationship. But as aware as they could be, they definitely weren't dumb.
Yeah. Because in that moment when you were like, they kicked you out, did you kind of cut ties with them completely, or were you still like willing to go back to ask for money and stuff like that?
That's a great question. I doubt it. Actually, dude, I haven't thought about this in a long time. This is kind of crazy. Have you guys ever heard of the show? I think it's called Drugs Inc. Drugs Incorporated.
Does that have all the pills on the front?
Yeah. Dude.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I hesitate to like recommend it to people because I was on drugs when I would watch it. I would like get high and watch it with my friend I was drug dealing with. There's this episode. I can't remember if it was like Pittsburgh or somewhere in Ohio, like Cincinnati or something. But the episode was called like Pittsburgh Smack or like Cincinnati Smack, something like that. And they were highlighting how bad the epidemic was in this city. And at the end, they're playing this like super like soapy music. Yeah. And they're basically showing people being taken into the hospital on overdoses. And then explaining that a lot of times they have people back in 15 minutes.
Wow.
You know, they overdose, they go out and they're back in 15 minutes.
That's crazy.
And I started bawling my eyes out. I'm like high as a kite. The dude that I dealt drugs with was a paraplegic. He couldn't walk. He had spinal bifida. So his like spine ended before his legs.
Oh, okay.
So he was in a wheelchair. And so I was sitting in his wheelchair while he was on the couch with like drugs on the table. And I'm like crying. And he's like, bro, what's wrong, dude? And I was like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And then, I say that to say like all of a sudden I was getting all these like pictures of specifically my dad, because he had like just reached out at the time and asked if I wanted to like go to lunch or something. And, I obviously said no. But like, you know, they were still so intentional even in the midst of that. And I'm sure that they tried to reach out a lot more than I remember. They would have done anything they could, you know, but I didn't want anything to do with them unless it involved them giving me money.
Did that come out of shame and embarrassment?
No, I just didn't care. No, I wish that it came out of that. Like, that would have been a lot nicer to them, I think. But I just didn't.
It was just drugs.
That was all I cared about. I didn't care about anything else.
Yeah. So that moment when you were crying at the TV, was that your first moment of realization of how bad, like, it had gotten?
Yeah, it was like a week later that I was in jail getting sober. I think it was like a week.
And what's the event that leads to you going into jail at this point?
So maybe I prayed then. I don't know what it was. A week later, I wake up and I know for a fact I'm going to jail that day. There had been like a warrant out for my arrest. There had been an investigation on me and my friend. You know, you could feel like the walls closing in. And I woke up and knew that I was going to jail. And our entire thing was like falling apart at the seams. It was like,
was it just the two of you?
Yeah.
Can I ask how much money you're making at this point?
I was thinking that as well.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, I was in it for the drugs. So I wouldn't say that like I was getting rich. I was making a lot of money. What I would say was I was doing a lot of drugs.
Yeah. You just had infinite drugs. Like,
I had an infinite amount of drugs and I was not in it for the money.
Yeah. What about him? Was he in it for the money or the drugs as well?
Both.
Yeah.
Until the end. But yeah, he was definitely, and I'm trying to be a little like careful just in case like certain people listen or whatever. But he was definitely like one of the top dogs in our area. And I will say this about him, like I loved that dude to death. We haven't talked in a long time. We lived in his family's house. Well, I would say his family lived in like his house.
Yeah.
And they were like a Honduran family, super sweet. The dad was in a mariachi band.
Oh, nice.
So we'd be like dealing dope upstairs, and then we would hear like a mariachi band downstairs.
I love that.
Yeah. Sweetest mom in the whole world. She died a few years ago. She was blind and had cancer. His sister was murdered, so this family like almost completely gone. I think he's in prison right now or something. Sweetest like family, sweetest dude, like such sweet, like awesome memories I had with him. But
just a really unfortunate deal of cards for that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I mean, essentially drugs just became the priority, and it's your classic, like, any gangster movie, like what happens, like drugs become the priority.
So how's this come to a close?
So I wake up, I know I'm going to jail that day. So we have nothing at this point. And I walk to the bank in my town, and I had like $10 in my account because I like never used a bank,
Yeah.
I pull that $10 out and I go buy a pack of cigarettes just to have my last day. And,
so you knew.
Oh, dude, I knew. Like, I remember walking. Like,
wow.
I don't know if I might have even said it to people. I just knew.
You just knew they were on your back, and this was it.
Yeah, and I think, like, obviously Jesus was everywhere in how this happened, and I just knew. And my friends ended up picking me up at some point. We get a bunch of Xanax. I'm high off my rocker. I don't know. Like, looking back, like, that was easily top 5, one of the most high. Like, one of the times I've been the most high. I don't even know how to say it.
Yeah, you were just
highest I've ever been.
Yeah,
top 5.
You were just like, this is the last time. I'm just
walking
gonna
zombie.
Yeah,
I'm an absolute walking zombie. And
how old are you at this point?
19.
Okay.
I walk into a gas station and I start stuffing like Monster Energy and granola bars in my pants. No idea why. Like, drug addicts don't eat granola bars.
Yeah.
They gotta, and this lady comes up to me and is like, put those back. And I'm like, put what back? And I try to like play it cool, but I'm like a zombie at this point. Like, I'm sure not many people are like aware of what Xanax like completely zombifies you if you do enough. Like, you're just kind of like walking dumb at that point. And I'm like trying to play it cool and like walk out of this gas station. Just so happens that there's a Subway like attached to this gas station, and there's 4 sheriffs eating subs.
Oh gosh.
And so she's like screaming at me, and I'm like, get out of my face.
Yeah.
Like, I'm taking this. Like, there's nothing you can do. Like, and I'm on my way to the car after we had just bought all the drugs that we intended to sell. So, like, worst case scenario, to have police pull up to your car with
so the car was just filled with drugs.
Full, absolutely full, with personal drugs and drugs that we were intending to sell.
And it was just all kinds of drugs.
Oh yeah. And before I even make it to a car, a sheriff is there handcuffing me, slamming me up against the car. I don't know if you guys have people who have dealt drugs listening, but this is where anybody who's dealt drugs is going to listen and just be so aware that I was the dumbest human alive. We had scales in the car. We had baggies in the car. And on top of that, we had, so like if you ever go to a bank, right, and you, let's say, break 100, they're not going to give you any ones.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to split it by 20s, 10s, maybe 5s if you ask. One of the ways that police can essentially charge you with dealing drugs is by having large amounts of cash with like 1s, 5s that are divvied up in a way that a bank wouldn't have given.
So it's just a car full of evidence.
Car full of every single thing that you need to say, like, we were obviously dealing drugs, right?
And then on top of that, just tons of drugs.
That.
Dude, like, literally picture a checklist and just picture every single box checked off type thing. I have no idea to this day why I said it. I was in the car with 2 other dudes, one being my buddy. I I said, everything in the car is mine. It's all mine. You don't have to worry about these two dudes. Every single thing in the car is mine.
Wow.
I think it might have been like a hero complex thing for me where, you know, I was aware of the fact that it was my fault. Mm-hmm. He had specifically told me not to go into the store and not to steal anything, but I wanted to steal. It was like a thrill thing for me. I think that's why I said it, but I said it. When you're arrested in like a small town, they don't always have the facilities for someone that's in a wheelchair. So he just got to go, right? Mm-hmm. And so my buddy and his driver, they were able to drive off where they took me to jail. Wow. And this had not been my like first stint in jail. It was my last time. But it was at that point, I don't remember the next like 2 or 3 days because I'd been on so many drugs and was withdrawing. When you first go into jail, you get put in like what they would call like a drunk tank.
Okay.
And in every jail, that's different. If it's a bigger jail, it's probably a little bit more souped up. If you're like arrested in like the Boonies, like I was, it's like one individual room where you're like sleeping on a concrete floor.
Okay.
Type sitch. And it was definitely the most redneck jail I'd ever been in, for sure.
What made it so redneck?
I mean, the easy answer is you're in the boons, so it's just a bunch of white people.
Yeah.
And that was for sure the scariest jails to be in.
Wow.
For sure.
Really? What made it that much scarier?
Well, think about a racist person, right? If you're racist, you don't have any priorities or morals. It's fair game.
Yeah.
I feel like racism is so far up there on the like jacked up, list that think about all the other
everything
things.
under
they don't care what else.
Like, it's at that point, so there's just no safety nets whatsoever. I was a young kid, and it was pretty intense. And then on top of that, essentially I was looking at doing, almost 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how long do you get officially booked for after court?
Dude, that's where we can dive into like the corrupt system that America has because you don't know, right? So how it works is, you go in, let's say 2 weeks later, you get what's called a plea deal, right? Either you get yourself a lawyer or you're assigned a lawyer.
Yeah.
I forget the term for an assigned lawyer. It's there's a term for it.
Yeah.
So 9 out of 10 people, they can't afford their own lawyer because they're buku expensive.
Yeah. It's like a state appointed attorney, right?
Yeah. There's another term, but state appointed. That's good. So you meet your court appointed lawyer, state appointed. And then what they do is they'll give you a plea deal, right? So they'll say, all right, so the max penalty for this is, good example, 5 years, right? If you sign that you are guilty today, you can be out within a year with a year's probation.
So you're like, I'm signing that paper.
Obviously.
Yeah.
No doubt. Right?
Because then at this point, you'd also been 2 weeks sober.
Yep.
So your probably mind was pretty clear.
Yeah. And to take it away from my situation, just to explain more of like how it works, right? Let's say you say no. You might get another offer. You might get a third offer. They might get sweeter. They might get worse. You're rolling the dice with that.
Mm-hmm.
Why does the government give out these plea deals?
Dude, this is without a doubt one of the most corrupt parts of our entire society. It's because first off, they want guilty people. First off. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out the best way to.
Yeah.
Because it's just such a big, complex thing. Like, first off, people want a success rate too.
Yeah.
Second, they want to keep you in the system, right? Probation, work release, jail time, all of that keeps you in the system. Third thing is they don't want to spend the money. It costs money to take things to court.
Right.
Right. So the threat is like, okay, I won't get a max sentence if I say, even if I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't commit this crime, I won't get the max. I will get off.
Which is a win. Yeah.
I will get off.
Is it almost
if
like
I say
cops
yes.
having to give out a certain amount of tickets? It's
Similar.
them trying to get
Yeah,
the amount of
100%.
yeses.
Because it's also,
100%.
it's the prison and the state will have to dish out a whole new amount of money for a new prisoner. Because then it's another whole nother amount.
Is that why the government? It's a proud thing to say that we got this many guilty people.
I think so. I think it's like becoming more taboo, right? Ever since the statistic came out that we have like more imprisoned people per capita than any other country in the world, it's been a little bit more like people have been aware of it. But that's the thing, and like most people can't afford to actually, which is so crazy if you think about it. They can't afford to be judged by a jury of peers. They can't afford to be innocent.
Which does not mean it's
guilty.
a fair trial. Right?
They can't. Yeah. They literally cannot afford to be innocent till proven guilty.
Yeah. So it's either you have to pay and maybe get proven guilty or innocent, or go and then you're pretty much guaranteed going to jail.
100%.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm in there facing, 3 decades, just about, in prison. I had never faced anything like that before. I'd been arrested for, being drunk as a minor. That was I was arrested 3 or 4 times for that. I was arrested for, for a domestic, it was like a fight. I got in a fight with a dude, in an apartment complex. I was arrested for a battery once, things that weren't too crazy. This was the big deal right here. So everybody is like, whatever you do, don't sign that first plea deal. Like the second one's always sweeter. They're going to want you.
Who's telling this?
The other inmates, right? Okay. And they're like, don't sign. It's going to get better. Like whatever you do not sign it. I had given my life to Jesus after that, right? So I'm arrested. I'm withdrawing. I have a radical encounter with Jesus.
I'd love to know the story on that. How does that come about in jail?
The only thing that I remember, because it's just so foggy.
Yeah.
The only thing I remember is being on the phone with my mom and her essentially being like, "It's the rest of your life. Like, is this really what you want for the rest of your life?" And I was crying. I was bawling my eyes out. And I wish that I could say that, the physicality of it, I wish that I could say I, saw angels and it was crazy. I just remember thinking, man, Jesus is the only way. I'm going to follow Jesus. That's what I'm going to do.
I guess at that point, you probably didn't have any other options.
I did not.
You might as well.
Other options at all. And I had been raised in the church, right? My dad was a pastor when I was a kid, up until I was 7. My parents obviously loved Jesus. Went to that Southern Baptist boys' school where, I was shown a whole new side of Jesus that was awesome.
So, Christianity wasn't foreign to you by any means.
It was there. You can hear it when you're listening to the story. It's there the whole time.
Yeah,
right?
even it's crazy. I got involved with my church before being kicked out of school. I went on a missions trip with my church. My pastor, Tim Veenstra, if he ever listens to this, huge shout out to Tim Veenstra. Was the dopest dude ever. One of the pastors there, Derry Prinkert, he would call me when I was in boys' school because they knew that I was so he would call me just to have little conversations so that I wasn't freaked out when I came back to earth. There was Sam Olson, another youth pastor, all these dudes super intentional with me.
But it wasn't until the breaking point.
It wasn't it, bro. It just wasn't I needed something else.
Yeah.
And so it was not foreign at all for me. I just knew in that moment that it was either I was going to die, I was going to spend my life in prison, or I was going to give my life to Jesus. And when you're faced with something like that, you're just kind of duh.
Yeah. And it seems like throughout this story, just getting to know you, that's your personality. It has to be this or nothing, right?
It really, and so I went balls to the wall with Jesus. I became your classic, whatever. I didn't really know what I was doing because I had never really truly, I never accepted Jesus in the idea of it because it would just get in the way of me doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I believed in Jesus ever since I was a little child, for sure. Deathly afraid of even not believing in Jesus. It just would get in the way of me doing what I wanted to do. So I went balls to the wall. Right. And obviously gave up drugs. And so I'm in jail. everybody's telling me not to accept this first plea deal. And I'm like, I got you. I won't, obviously. I go to meet with my public defender.
Public.
Oh, okay.
Public defenders. So I go to meet with her, and I'm straight up like, I don't care what you're about to slide across this table. I don't want it. Send it back. And she goes, no, you're gonna want to sign this one. And she slides this paper across the table, and everything was gone. I still to this day have no idea how every single charge was dropped.
Wow.
But everything was gone.
Because multiple felonies. I keep saying felonies.
Multiple felonies, yes.
So you're just looking at a blank piece of paper?
I'm looking at a paper that literally says I'm in trouble because I was high in public.
Really?
Straight up. Like, I still to this day, dude, I've had people like question what had happened. I've had people like other convicts that are like, you're lying, bro. Like, challenge the fact that I was even like arrested for those things.
Really?
And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, I was arrested for those things. I was looking at doing the next 3 decades in prison.
Yeah.
And it was all gone.
What was the sentence?
Like, it was like public intoxication. That's what I got charged with. So it was like essentially the paper said you leave jail today and you do a year of probation.
Wow.
Yeah. Straight up.
And how long had you been in at this point?
3 weeks.
Oh my God.
That's crazy.
So from 30
2
years
weeks.
to 3 weeks.
Yeah. Straight up. So I signed it. Obviously.
Yeah.
They're releasing me from that jail that day. Like, I'm about to hit the streets, right? And I have nowhere to go. So I'm like, I'm going to go do drugs.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Like, it's that quick. Even after having this radical encounter with Jesus, it's that quick, right?
It's just the only thing you knew at that point.
Only thing I knew at that point. So I go up there. They're literally in the process of releasing me, right? And they stop me at the front desk. I'm dressed, ready to hit the streets. And they're like, actually, can you step into this room real quick? They pull me into the room. It's the drunk tank. I don't remember it, but I'm back in the drunk tank. And they waited till I was in there. They went over the intercom, and they're like, you have a warrant in another city. So we're going to be taking you, like, those police from that city are going to come pick you up. And I was being transported to another jail for 4 months to do like a 4-month sentence.
Wow.
In this jail. Right?
And what was that for?
That was for the battery that I hadn't served any time for. I was supposed to like do probation or something like that and just never showed up. Whatever. That was where my life really changed a lot. And I realized that I was like still the same person, right? So Jesus came into my life. He changed me. I wanted to follow Jesus, but I had no idea how.
Yeah.
It's like black and white, or it's like the most contrast change of life, right? Because Jesus is like selfless. He like embodies selflessness perfectly. He is the most selfless human to ever walk the earth. And then there was like little old drug addict who was like the most selfish human on the earth. Everything was about me and getting high. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm going to follow Jesus, who is like the most selfless, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fighting still continues in jail. I got high twice.
In jail?
Snorted pills, yeah. Both times freaked out, ran to the shower, scrubbed myself, hated it. But it was like still the same person.
Was that just like a moment of weakness?
I would love to say that, but it was like I still wanted it.
Yeah.
Just nothing had changed. I had this radical encounter, and I do think like a lot of times we expect when we have encounters with Jesus for things to just be different, but that's not always the case. And so that leads to like disappointment and a lack of change rather than like really taking the time to choose what Jesus had done.
Yeah.
So I'm on the phone with my parents, right? And my dad's like, we're not going to pressure you. We're not going to make the decision for you, but we think that you should go to this rehab called Teen Challenge. I had been to Teen Challenge for a month when I was 18, and it was a horrible experience. It was just a bunch of thug leaders who were using ministry to get rich didn't care about us, a bunch of, thug students who were really just homeless people, that wanted to do their thing and have a free bed.
Yeah.
And it was a horrible experience. That teen challenge was actually closed down
Wow.
for embezzlement.
Oh, wow.
Like a year after I got sober. And I told all y'all people, this place was horrible. I'd be up in the school. The school's in like an old nursing home, right?
Oh my gosh.
Run down nursing
That's
home.
creepy.
So creepy. And I'd be up in the school and I'd see them roll up in like Benzes and like Cadillacs, Escalades.
And you're like,
And I just
something
remember thinking
shady.
like, bro, this is kind of shady. This
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
not make sense. Anyway, so when they brought up going to Teen Challenge, I was like, no, it's a corrupt ministry. And they're like, no, this is in a different city. This is closer to us. And they're like, our church, the church where all those youth pastors I mentioned, Napanee Missionary Church, supports it. Like there's like a partnership, and we don't think Napanee Missionary Church would partner with a ministry that was corrupt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. And my dad's like, well, what are you going to do? Like, you can't stay here.
And this is like when the 4 months is coming to a close.
Yeah. Like, you can't stay here. So I'm 2 months in. Sorry. They said that early on.
Okay.
That's what they thought I should do when I get out. 2 months in, it's my like fourth fight since being in jail. I had been praying. This is kind of crazy, but the verse, for some reason, the whole like turn the other cheek was like really speaking to me. So I started like praying that the Lord would teach me to turn the other cheek because I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
If anybody said anything wise, if I felt like I had to prove myself in any circumstance, immediate fight mode.
Yeah.
And there was a like special needs guy in my pod. So to explain, just to like better explain this,
Yeah.
like if you've ever seen like 60 Days In,
Yeah.
any like sort of jail show,
Yeah.
you have like the big room.
Yeah.
The like common room is an easy way to explain it. And then you have like multiple cells along the wall. So he was in my pod, right? Not my cell. And I had a radio that my parents got me for like my birthday or Christmas, whatever, while I was in there. And he was like, bro, I'll give you this bag of chips if you let me listen to your radio. And I was like, duh. Yeah, I'll take a bag of chips. 100%. His brother was in that pod as well. And his brother came up to me upset after that and was basically trying to accuse me of, it's called extortion in the jail world. Like, it's essentially you're taking advantage of a weaker person for commissary, for acts of service, whatever. And it was immediate for me, like a defensive response where it was like, get out of my face, bro. Like, that's not what I was doing, whatever. After that conversation, I felt convicted. And I felt like what Jesus would do would be go and talk to this person and make things right. So I go to his cell to talk with him. I don't know if it was my body language coming in. I don't know if it was just him, but he went straight to fight mode. And I tried every single thing that I could to not fight him. Like, he was punching me in the face. He was kneeing me, and I was just taking it. I mean, he was not that small, but he wasn't like as big as me. So I was just eating it. And then, he started biting me. He started biting my finger.
Dude.
And he was grabbing my balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard. And
And you're like, dude, at this point,
at this point, I was like, I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
For me, it was like the idea of my finger, losing a finger.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I was
So he's
like,
gonna
I
like
could
bite
lose-
your finger off.
Dude, he was clenched down. Like, he was clenched down on my finger. Yeah. Like, it tore, it like pulled my nail up. Like, yeah. So I hit him and I whooped him, and he had headbutted me in this fight. Like, if you get hit right here, that's why you see a lot of fighters bleeding from
Bleeds
this
a
part.
lot, yeah.
Because like there's this part of your skull that sticks out a little bit, and if that gets hit, you're bleeding, right?
Yeah.
So he had headbutted me there, and I'm bleeding. And we, the fight's over with. People run into the room, and they're like COs, correctional officers are on their way. So I run back to my room, and I'm like trying to get it to stop bleeding. And I could not get it to stop bleeding. And so the COs obviously come in, see I'm bleeding, handcuff me, take me down to the seg.
What's that?
It's like jail within a jail.
Okay.
You're in the hole.
Gotcha.
The hole is a good way to say it. So I'm in the hole 30 days. This is
just like the pitch black thing.
no.
Okay.
You're on 24-hour lockdown.
Okay.
You're in a cell. They let you out to shower. They let you out for like an hour to make a phone call, whatever.
You don't have like going out into the yard or anything like that.
Nothing. Well, this is another good point about the jail system to bring up. Most jails, they don't have outside activities.
Oh, really?
You're indoors 24/7.
Dude.
Yeah. The best you'll get is a room that has open windows like 20 feet up. You know,
That's the only sunlight you get, pretty much.
only sunlight you get.
That's
No
rough.
sunlight, nothing. You're not seeing the outdoors at all.
Wow.
So then you go even deeper when you're in the hole. It's like there's no open windows, there's no fresh air. You don't get anything like that. You're in a, you know, I would say like 8x5 cell, 8 foot by 5 foot cell for 23 hours a day until you're done in there. And that was the most quiet my life had ever been. It was like everything was so fast up until that moment that like everything just kind of slowed down for me.
Did that feel like the longest month of your life?
Yeah, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible at first. I stumbled upon a book called Love Does by Bob Goff. And it used to be a lot more popular than it is now. But essentially, he is breaking down that love does, right? It's not a descriptive word. It's an act, like it's an action.
Yeah.
Verb. Love is a verb, right? And he tells all these stories from his life that were actually like really dope. Like he did really cool things. And it all had to do with like loving Jesus and loving the people around you. So I read that and I was like, oh, so like I'm not going to have to be like a cliche if I love Jesus. And that was like way less scary for me, was the fact that I could still be a crazy dude, right? I could still be who I am, all these like things that God has created to me, but I can still love Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that was like a turning point because then I just wanted to love people. I wanted to do whatever I could to love people. I just had no idea how. So I'm in this cell for like 30 days. I miss Thanksgiving. I'm in there over Christmas. That was like the first time I'd ever really experienced that. And, dude, my only view was like this window that literally looked out on a dump. Literally looked out on the county dump. That was my only view.
That was on purpose.
They put that there on purpose.
That
Yeah,
had to be
100%.
Was a literal dump. And let's go even deeper. This jail, Elkhart County Jail, is built on top of the old dump.
Oh gosh.
So there was
bad.
a spider, even worse, a brown lacus infestation in this jail.
Oh my God.
People would wake up with brown lacus bites.
That's the most deadly spider in America, right?
Yeah.
Do you know Josh's relationship with spiders?
I'm petrified of spiders.
Me too.
Petrified.
Deathly afraid
Yeah.
of spiders. My wife kills spiders in our house.
Same
I
with
don't
her.
kill spiders. deathly afraid of spiders. Here's what I'll say about the Elkhart County Jail now is they do have a lot of really dope initiatives and they're doing a lot of incredible things. Still a part of a very corrupt system, but a lot of really awesome people trying to do some awesome things in there. But yeah, I'm in the hole. That's when I decided to go to Teen Challenge. That's where I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I'm praying. Dude, I had hair down to like here at the time. Was like obsessed with my hair. I was aware of the fact that, well, in my Teen Challenge experience, they shaved your head when you first came in. So I was like, Lord, I can't shave my head. I can't do that. In Teen Challenge, you can't listen to secular music. That's not a thing. You're cut off. I love music. Obviously, I've loved it my whole life. In fact, to pass time when I was in the hole, I would literally just write song titles that I could remember. I would like pick a band. I'd be like Nirvana, and then I'd write as many songs as I could remember.
Just to keep them in your mind.
As many, yeah, just to like do something. I'm like, I can't give this up. I love music.
Yeah.
The Lord's like, you gotta do it. You gotta do it, man.
How old are you at this point?
19.
19 still.
So this is the first time you're considering being willing to give something up for a
100%.
relationship.
Wow.
100%. And I think that was huge for me as I was like battling with the Lord. And that was like my first real struggle with the Lord. And we went deep, man. And I ended up deciding to go to Teen Challenge, fill out the application, send it in the mail or whatever. The jail wouldn't let me get on the phone to call them. I'm trying to like better my life, right? I'm out of the hole at this point. I'm back in population, general population. I have to do a phone call interview with Derek Lyons, the intake coordinator for Teen Challenge, who is also one of the dopest. Shout out to Derek Lyons if you ever listen to this. One of the dopest humans I have ever met in the entirety of my life.
Wow.
This dude drives to the jail to meet with me in person
That's so cool.
because they wouldn't let me do a phone call.
Wow.
So I'm calling my parents. I can't call Teen Challenge with the jail phone. I have to call with like a main desk phone, right? Because you've seen it in the movies and all that. It's like so-and-so is calling you.
Yeah.
Teen Challenge can't accept phone calls like that.
Oh.
It's like, I don't know why. There's a whole reason. So this dude, Derek Lyons, drives from the center to meet with me in person.
I love that.
We meet, we talk. I mean, I felt like we vibed. I don't know. Maybe Derek will like listen to this and be like, I don't know, bro. But, you know, I end up getting out, February 8th of 2017. I get out of jail. The Super Bowl is that Sunday.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of looking for an excuse to not go to Teen Challenge just yet, you know? So I'm like, I think I got out on like a Thursday or a Friday, 3 a.m., something like that. I tell Derek I'll show up Monday. And Derek has told me, you know, he was like, this dude's not showing up.
Yeah.
That was his thought. But I went. And that is really what changed my life and set me on the trajectory.
So you made it that whole weekend.
I made it, dude.
Where was the first food spot you went after you got out?
Bro, dude,
It's a good question.
my parents took me to a diner called Callahan's.
Oh.
And if you are from Elkhart, Indiana, you know Callahan's.
Okay.
It is the spot.
Just the name Callahan's, I know the food is good.
What was the order? Straight out of
I
jail.
got like one of those like, you know, like egg bowls, you know?
Oh,
Yeah, like a hash
Everything.
bowl.
Hash bowl, bro. Changed my life, bro. Dude, I just remember being so happy.
Yeah.
Cup of coffee. It was like 5 a.m. My parents still came and got me. We're eating good food. It was Super Bowl weekend, bro. So I ate like good.
Yeah.
You know?
And you're like, I'm going to teen. I'm going. That's it.
I'm
Eight.
going,
Good.
bro.
I'm ready to go.
I'm going. So I go Monday. And that was, you know, I met the dudes that would like really show me Jesus
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. You know, Andy Collins, who actually, he like officiated my wife and I's wedding. Andy is with the exception of my wife, my favorite human on this planet, Andy Collins. Eric Swanson, dude was my guy. He was like the programs manager of Teen Challenge. So he was in charge of like all the interns, the like schooling, the teaching, all that. Like that dude poured into me like no other.
Wow.
I have still to this day had some of the hardest, deepest, realest conversations. Like Eric Swanson, when I think of like real deep heart work,
Yeah.
I think of Eric Swanson's. Derek Lyons, like I mentioned, Josh Eaton, who like taught me to lead worship. He was like the one that like put a guitar in my hand.
Wow.
And was like, you're actually, his wife like pulled me out. Her name's Arlette. Coolest human. She's from Guatemala, coffee person, whatever. She's like, this is like a year and a half in, but like Josh and Arlette were the ones that like God's called you to be a worship leader.
Wow.
Like we've had these visions about your life. Josh gave me his guitar.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
You know, like, so he was where I like learned that. You know, John Z, he was like an intern at the time, all these dudes, man, like Matt Slayball, he was like the work coordinator. He was cause we would like work every day for a few hours. He like was not just like a friend, but like a brother to me, you know, always was willing to have like hard discipline conversations with me, but also like bro out at the chance. There's Andy Bowman. Sorry, there's these people where I'm like, if I say one, like I can't.
Have to say them all,
Dude,
yeah.
Andy Bowman was like, so I ended up interning, and Andy Bowman was like the guy ahead of me, or he was like the one that was like above me directly. He was like my person I reported to.
Yeah.
Bro, this dude displayed more patience for me than probably up there with my parents. As far as
Really?
patience. Yeah, I was a little butt, even in Teen Challenge. I was a little butthole of a human. And, dude, this dude, like, he would like pick me up, take me to the gym. He would like pick me up, take me to breakfast. Dude, every now and then he'd just be like, bro, I want to take you to the mall and just buy you like an outfit type thing.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So there was all these guys that like brought me in, to the family.
Yeah.
It was so hard. So I get to Teen Challenge and I'm like a student at this point, and everything is stripped away from you. You know, you don't get a phone. You don't get a boo. You don't get like your own schedule. You are a grown man being told what to do at every part of your day. And I needed that. I really did. I needed that.
Yeah.
That was exactly what I needed. So, you know, you would wake up at like 6 a.m. You would clean the dorms. I think that was the first thing we did. You'd wake up, clean the dorms. Yeah, right off the bat.
Wow.
You're waking up, you're scrubbing a toilet, bro. 6 a.m. Then you would go, you would eat breakfast. Then you would do Devos for 45 minutes, right? Then you would go do work duties till noon. And then class started at 1. And then you would have class till 5.
What was class?
Yeah, so the first one would be like some sort of like Bible, more like teaching, where they're like kind of more talking at you.
Yeah.
Not in like a rude way, just like that was more like the layout. Like we would do something like that. Then you would do what was called PNC, personal something, right? So you're in a desk cubicle. I hated it. It was homework all over again. It was school all over again. I hated it. And then after that, it was called GNC. So it was like group. I don't remember what the NC.
I'm assuming the C is probably connection.
Something like that, you know. And that was where they would teach you daily things like, this is what it looks like to go out and work a job and love Jesus. This is what it looks like to be married and love Jesus, whatever. Then after that, we would have dinner. And then after dinner, we would either have free time, we would have church, or we would have, my favorite was, we would have rec night. So we would play basketball.
Nice.
Basketball, pickleball, volleyball. That was like my favorite night of the whole week, man.
That was once a week?
It was once a week.
That's it.
So that was like the weekdays. On Saturday, we would work until lunch, and then we would have the rest of the day free. And then I think Saturday nights, we had like movie night. They would show a movie. Sunday mornings, we always had a rally. So this is where most people have heard of Teen Challenge, is because Sundays we would like go to a church and we would like share testimonies. We'd have like a choir. We would sing like a song.
Yeah.
And then after that, we would have like visits. If you had been there long enough, your family could come visit.
Okay.
And then free time.
Wow. So this goes down in 2017. You get into this schooling. How long are you in this schooling for?
So that's a year program. So I graduated from the student phase. It would have been like around February of 2018.
Okay. Wow.
And then at that point, I decided to do like an internship. So it's like your path to becoming like a Teen Challenge staff member.
Okay.
Type thing. And that was even harder for me than being a student, because I had more freedom at that point. I had to like make decisions for myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't make good decisions, bro. It was like still a struggle.
Really?
Yeah. I wasn't like using drugs. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't doing that. It was just like, you know, I think like a continuance of the identity problems where, you know, and I didn't want to do the work. I didn't want to do the schoolwork. I didn't want to do the hard stuff. Still a lot of pride, like horrible pride issues. I didn't know how to lead, and I was like a leader. So I wasn't a good leader. I wasn't helpful. I would get angry at the students. You know, I would get short. I didn't want to give them my free time. I didn't want to give them like my friendship.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that stuff, you know? You know, even as an intern, I wasn't allowed to have like a girlfriend, but I was, you know, Snapchatting and, you know, I had that type of stuff, and, all like behind the backs of like the leaders. And I think that was like the most hurtful thing for them, is all this energy and love they would pour into me. And then again, I would just like sneak these things in.
Yeah. Were you allowed to have a phone as a leader?
Yeah. Yeah. So once I was an intern, until I got in trouble one time and Eric Swanson took my phone away from me. I think it was like 3 months. Like
Oh my gosh.
3 months I couldn't have.
No joke.
Dude, because you were 20 at the time, I'm assuming?
I was 20.
As a 20-year-old, I feel like getting your phone taken away from you just wouldn't help
That's
anything.
As horrible as you think. That is as humbling as you think it is. It is very humbling, but it was like what I needed 100%.
Wow.
And he was willing to do that. He was willing to do that for me.
To take the risk of being like, getting fought against. I feel
Think
like
about it, because you can do these things. You can take these things away from people, and they can just leave.
Yeah,
I know so many of my friends that I was in Teen Challenge with. They left, and they're dead now.
really.
You know, they graduated. They did exactly what I did. They're dead now. So as a leader in that ministry, like, I could make this decision, and they can, you know, get mad and leave, and they can die.
Yeah.
And it's not your fault, but like, willing to make those hard decisions and watch me fall on my face.
It's because like this could either really help you or set you back, but it's like if it's the only chance that could help you, you have to take it.
100%. And that was, I think, the thing that really like set these dudes apart, is they were willing to do those hard things.
Yeah.
But they were also willing to like spend their free time with me.
Yeah.
Selfless
Dude,
leaders.
so
Yeah.
like, not perfect by any means, but so selfless. Like, the amount of times that like Josh Eaton would like take me out to lunch, invite me to his house, spend hours with me, just having conversation, eating food. But then the next day, take something from me, you know, willing to sacrifice, like, be awkward and like make those hard decisions. Like, all of them willing to like do that.
Was that your first experience with like selfless disciplinarians who are going to be really intentional with you, but also be really strict with you?
Yeah. I mean, Pastor Bosley was definitely that for me at Master's Range, was definitely, but that was like one person. All of a sudden I'm surrounded by these men willing to do this for me. Like, that changed my life forever.
Wow.
Yeah. To this day, Josh Eaton called me just like a couple weeks ago, and we chatted. You know, Andy, like, he did our wedding, and it was like the most beautiful, like, couldn't ask for a better human to do our wedding. You know, to this day, still reach out and we'll like chat. From, obviously we're all busy, so
Yeah.
I can only do it so much. But
Wow. So this happens in 2018. Fast forward to today, you're sitting here on the show. If we have teenagers who are listening that maybe are in a similar situation, not to the same level, what would be something that you would like to just have them hear?
I think the temptation is to, first off, think you're the only one that has this problem. Whether it be petty issues like my mommy and daddy don't like me, to like the most extreme, legitimate issues. The temptation is to believe that you are the only one struggling with that or are in that scenario.
Yeah.
And that's just not true.
And that people just don't understand.
Dude, either other people, they just don't understand. They just don't tell you. There's so many people in the same situation. You're not alone in what you're going through. And I think the main thing that I hear today, or that like comes to mind, is it does get better. Like, and it can get better. Like, if you're like a 12-year-old kid with depression, if you're like a 15, 16-year-old kid with depression, like, it does get better. Like, and life does move on, you know, like, I was able to do, like, I ended up doing missions for like 2.5 years, like, and see like revival and, you know, all over the world, you know, and see like Jesus move in the most crazy ways, dude. Like, I can't even, that'd just be like a whole nother,
Yeah.
a whole nother thing. And then I would like stop and be like, 3 years ago, I was shooting heroin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it doesn't even have to be that radical too. Like, you might just be sad and then like look forward to 3 years. You're like, good.
Yeah.
You know, and I like still have struggles.
Yeah.
Dude, like, I get depressed from time to time. Not like the cute, like trendy depressed. Like, sometimes, man, I'm like, whew, dude, life is hard, you know, and I'm like married now, and that comes with its own journeys. You know, it's like, I love my wife and I love being married, and but it's also like, there's like struggles in that. Like, you're like doing life with another human, and there's some really intense, hard conversations and healing that comes with that. But it's like, dude, I was like a heroin addict. Like, I would gladly figure this out.
Yeah.
Like, and I see all these ways that God has blessed me with just having like a companion like that, someone that knows me better than anybody. Like, you know, when I get done here, like, I'm going to go hang out with my wife.
Yeah.
And we're going to like either like watch a movie, we're going to like make some baller food. Like, I have tomorrow off, so I'm going to like really party with my wife tonight, kick it. What the heck, dude? Like, it does
at that point
better.
Like,
that's what I'm saying. I have an awesome job with like some of the coolest, like literally like the coolest. I work with the coolest people in the world, slinging like top notch coffee.
Yeah.
You know, and if it can get better for me, the old adage is like, if God can do this for so and so, they can do it for you.
Yeah.
I remember a Judas Smith book that like started with that, and I just underlined it, and I was like, me. Like, if God can like do that for me, there really is no situation that God cannot, cannot bring people out of.
Yeah.
The last thing I would say is, if you're going to do it, do it. Like, it's not trendy these days to be a Christian. It's just not. And that's okay. It's not supposed to be. It's really not supposed to be trendy. Like, it's not supposed to be a trendy thing. It's not supposed to be cute. You're not supposed to be popular. It's not how it works, right? You're supposed to be different. You're supposed to look different. You're supposed to be different, whatever. If you're going to do it, do it.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to be a Christian, like, love Jesus, love people, be willing to be radical, go do something about it. Don't just like settle for like, I'm a Christian, like, do something, like, dive into your heart, see what God has made you passionate about, and do that. For me, like, coming out of Teen Challenge, it was missions and worship.
Yeah.
I wanted to do worship in the nations. I wanted to go to like the Boonies of Africa, and I wanted to like see worship happen.
Yeah.
Turkey was the other big place,
And that's been your personality through the whole story. If you're going to see it, really see it.
Dude, I like, it was for my wife and I, it was the Middle East. Like, we wanted to go to some really hard and crazy places. Obviously, if you're aware of what's going on with Turkey right now, pray for Turkey.
Yeah.
But like, we did it, and we saw like revival happen. And I don't care what anybody says. I know this isn't like what people like to hear these days, but Jesus really does change people's lives.
Yeah.
And Jesus is after young people's hearts.
True.
He's after like the confused and the hurt and the broken kids. And he's after you, and we saw Jesus absolutely change these people's lives forever.
Yeah.
I still get WhatsApp texts by the dozens.
Wow.
Like, hey man, how's it going? Like, Jesus is doing this. Coffee shops in Istanbul, like baristas in Istanbul, like, like relating over like working in coffee shops and sending texts about Jesus, So the point being is, like, if you're going to do it, like, go do it. Like, don't be ashamed of it. Don't hide it. Like, don't do this whole, like, I don't call myself a Christian because, like, whatever. Like, be a Christian. Be, like, sold out. I'm not saying, like, one of the weird political. Like,
Yeah.
we don't need any more political people. Like,
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
to be quite honest, like, all that is for the birds. But,
Yeah.
like, love Jesus and love the people around you with your whole heart and be filled with that. Like, I don't really need to, like, be high anymore because, I laugh a lot. And I have a lot of really fun Jesus moments that kind of like, I don't like the whole like high on Jesus. That's not really my, but essentially like I'm filled up on that. I don't really need it.
Yeah.
And I don't think half-assing it works. I don't think that's ever what's going to work, so that would be my thing. If you're passionate about, I think we live in a day and age where like this podcast is a really good example. Like, you can have a podcast.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But you guys are passionate about podcasting, and it's like possible in this day and age.
Yeah.
10 years ago, it wasn't that easy.
Yeah.
Or even probably when you guys first started.
Oh yeah, it's
True, yeah.
become
Not
more
as easy.
popular. Yeah.
It's more popular.
Yeah, like even since we started, there's been, because we were one of the first people to like fill the teenage podcasting area, and since then there's been like thousands
You can
who have just
flick
started.
a quarter and it's going to hit someone with a podcast.
Yeah.
Literally.
Crazy.
Dude, video games.
Yeah.
Bro, you can make money playing. If that's
know.
what you're passionate about,
Yeah.
like you don't have
At that
to be,
point,
you don't have to be ashamed of that
Yeah.
anymore. Like, we live in a society where if you're good at video games, bro, like, do it.
Do it, yeah.
Go do it. Passionate about coffee, find a coffee shop. If the things that you're passionate about, like, go do that. And I think the other thing is like making sure that like we as like, for me as like a 20, I don't see myself as like a grown person.
Yeah.
I'm a child still. A lot of like, that's how I feel most of the time. But for me, I feel a responsibility to champion that in young people. Like when they bring these things that might be like, I'm getting to the age where, dude, who was it? James Blake. If you guys have heard of James Blake, he's like a drum and bass artist.
Okay.
He posted the other day that one of his albums was 12 years old. That came out when I was in high school.
Wow.
So I was like, holy crap,
Yeah.
So it's kind of getting to the point now where I'm a little unrelatable to young people sometimes. I feel like a little bit of a geezer when I'm talking to like 13, 14, 15-year-old kids.
Yeah.
But I have like a responsibility to champion this newness.
Yeah.
It is not on me to make them look like my generation. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like God is raising up a new generation
Yeah.
each time, and they're going to be different. And it's not my place to judge. It's not my place to hold on to my old rituals. It's not just my joy, but it's my responsibility to champion these new things and these new things that are about like, it's super easy to get down on like TikTok and get down on entertainment and those types of things. But it's like, honestly, these kids are passionate about it.
It's true.
Yeah.
Do it. Don't make it weird for
Yeah.
them. Champion it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
It's a very good point. And I think when you said earlier, you said that like things will get better.
Yeah.
I think for the people out there who think that it won't, I think it will get better if you try to make it better. It's not just gonna fix itself.
100%.
But like if you're trying to fix something, it's gonna get better eventually.
100%.
Yeah.
It's not going to be handed to you.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready to do the work, nothing's going to change. That's a sad message because that's like, if you're not ready, you're not ready.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but you have to be willing to do the work, or else you got to call it what it is and say you don't want to change.
Yeah.
That's
true.
it. Well, I think that brings us to a close here.
Yeah.
Longest pod in the books, I think, you guys.
Yeah.
But Dom, I just want to personally thank you for sharing your story. I think it's going to have a great impact on our audience.
Enjoy, man.
I had a blast
Fun
here
stuff.
today.
Yeah. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. Dom, thank you so much for being here. If you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like the video, leave a comment saying how much you loved hearing Dom's story, and also make sure to subscribe. And also, if you're listening on any audio platforms, please make sure to download this episode, give us a follow, leave us a review.
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs. That is the main message.
That is the final message here, you guys. That is a wrap.
That's a wrap.